Okay, heading into the barn. Evening chores, Cornish rock cross meat chickens, 226 meat chickens. At this point, we're checking feed, water, chicks, ambient conditions. Those are all the things that we're looking over. With feeders, one of the things happening is we're adding the lids onto the feeder trays. We've let the chicks start out with feeder trays without the lids. Give them a few days to get used to that. And then we need to get the hinge lids on to keep the chicks out of the trays. But when you want them getting used to eating out of those, it works really well just to leave the lids off, let them figure out what the feed is all about and how the feeders work, and then add the hinge lids after several days. We're feeding 22% protein Kalmbach feed. It's made in Ohio, and our local feed mill handles it as a distributor for Kalmbach, and we contract with the feed mill in Beverly, Ohio, Beverly Feed and Equipment, to get our Kalmbach feed. So they take care of getting it direct from Kalmbach to getting it here locally. So waters, going on with waters, about the same as we started on day one. That's Wade there putting waters down in. So basically with the waters, we try to keep a set in the brooder and a set on the temporary barrier, so that every time we need to change waters or anytime we find waters empty, we can really quickly swap in filled waters. And then once we get the waters out, we can deal with cleaning these if the trays need cleaned. So this is one that came out, so we can deal with dumping any stale water, cleaning the tray if needed, and then refilling it, and we'll have that set sitting here ready to go. So we got Owen there working on adding a hinge lid to the feeder. Jared's working on the same thing. There's Drew. He was helping me get some information on ambient conditions, and he is also helping us get waters filled up. So Drew's helping us there with refills. So we'll have the set in the pen totally filled, and we'll have a second set totally filled ready for replenishing those. Thanks, Wade. Y'all are doing a great job. Okay, so ambient conditions. Drew looked it up for us. 75 degrees Fahrenheit here, Southeast Ohio. It's probably coming on about 9 p.m. and this is July 27, 2025. So Drew told us it's 75 degrees outdoors, and real feel is matching temperature just about right on. So real feel is also about 75 degrees Fahrenheit. So our reference point for this group of birds, being about 5 days old, is that they probably want to be closer to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Day one, they would have wanted about 95 degrees Fahrenheit. Now we'd say they're probably definitely wanting to be closer to 90 degrees than 95 degrees. But they're also starting to produce more manure. So there's a little bit of manure load on the floor, and they're growing and they're eating a lot. So as they're eating, they're producing heat. As they're manuring, that manure load is producing some heat, and they're filling up their space more than they were, so that's got some body heat building up in their space, and we'll have the doors closed up. So overnight, we would expect them to be fairly comfortable, even though we would have temperatures maybe around 75 degrees Fahrenheit. And our reference point for what they'd want would be an expectation of them wanting to be about 90 degrees Fahrenheit. So what I'm going to do is wait about 2 hours and come back and check them again. And at that point, we may be plugging in 4 or 5 of the heat lamps. because if it's going to get maybe high 60s or right around 70 degrees Fahrenheit overnight, they probably will want potentially some heat lamps. Now, right at the moment, we have a couple of fans on, and here's one example of what we don't want. So it's cooler down here on this end of the pen because this is where the two fans are. So I am going to turn those off. So we start with this one on. There's off. And I'm going to get this one turned off over here. Simply cutting that moving air actually caused that crowd that was huddling right there to disperse. So they were huddling in response to this end of the pen cooling down faster because we had that moving air there. So for now, we're going to have no heat lamps on, no fans on, and I'm going to check them again in about 2 hours. My expectation really is that temperatures overnight are supposed to hold about 75 degrees Fahrenheit, and they're probably going to be comfortable as is. You can see that they're throughout the pen pretty evenly, and some are eating, some are drinking, but when I check them again in a couple hours, we'll get a good feel for how they're coping with whatever the ambient conditions are, and we'll adjust accordingly at that point. But they're doing great. 5 days old. We are down to, as I mentioned, 226 from starting at 230. That's okay. Something neat that we're seeing now, you can see the tips of their wings. They're getting their wingtip feathers. So they're still mostly yellow fluff, but we see the white feathering coming in at the tips of the wings. And next we'll see it out at the tails. And they've grown a lot. I'm going to say they've probably doubled in size since day one. I think we're in the second bag of feed now. We sure appreciate your support of our channel, and we'll keep you posted on how they're doing. These are meat chickens, Cornish cross meat chickens being raised for poultry.